Hi, and welcome to this bootcamp on creating a token crowd sale using Truffle and Ganache and using RNDflo's Blockchainify. So to go to Blockchainify repo, we first go to rndflo.github.io here in your browser. Click on the Blockchainify link and you'll be taken to the Blockchainify repo. So you'll clone the Blockchainify repo, and I've already done that. So in the Blockchainify repo, I have a folder called flow-ICO. And what we'll do is create a ICO for a token called real token. So I'll create a folder called real-ICO. And under real-ICO, we need to install our toolchain. So the first step we have to do is follow the instructions in the steps here and install Ganache CLI. So do npm install -g Ganache CLI. Now that Ganache is installed, you can open another terminal window, switch to the real ICO folder and run Ganache CLI. What that does is initializes the blockchain and starts running it. So right now it's running on this port 8545. The next step is to install Truffle. So just run npm install -g Truffle. Truffle will allow us to interact with the smart contracts and deploy them. So we've installed Truffle now. We can initialize Truffle in the real ICO folder. And now it's downloading and it's initialized. Now we can open. So when it's initialized, it creates these folders called contracts, migrations, and test. So we can initialize, we can start writing our smart contracts now. So we open the smart contracts folder, which has a migration or a Solidity contract called migrations.sol. We can also check which version of Truffle we have by running Truffle version, and that will tell us exactly which version we have. We have 4.1.14 of Truffle, and the version of Solidity that it supports is 0.4.24. So here in our migrations, we can actually upgrade it to 0.4.24 since that's the version of Truffle that is going to support that version of Solidity. And the next step is to initialize npm so that we can install Zeppelin. Now just use the defaults here and say yes, and now you have a package.json in that folder right there. The next step is to install Zeppelin, and we can also save it as a dependency in our npm package.json. So now Zeppelin is installed, and we have Zeppelin Solidity version 1.12.0 in our toolchain. Now we can actually install Zeppelin Solidity 1.7.0, or just stick to the version that's on here. I'll just stick to 1.12.0 because that's a higher version than 1.7.0. Now the next step is to install or write the smart contracts. So we'll use the smart contracts from the Flow token ICO. So here's the Flow coin that's using Solidity 4.24. So we'll create a token called real coin dot solidity. Now in order to create a real coin, which is an ERC20 token, we can just use the defaults and change the name to real coin. So we have a real coin token with 18 decimal places, and now we'll create a contract for the crowd sale of real coin. And so we create a file called realcoincrowdsale.sol, and in that we'll create real coin crowd sale, which is a timed crowd sale with a minted crowd sale inheritance. And similarly, it's using the real coin as its token. The next step is to check our truffle.js. So we go to truffle.js and we check the network that it's connecting to, which is the network where the blockchain is running. So if you notice under Ganache, it's listing on port 8545. So we need to tell Truffle to deploy to that port. The blockchain is running on that port. So we change truffle.js and point it at 8545. Now that that's done, we can actually create our migration deployment. So under migrations, we have a deploy contracts smart contract or a migration. So if we go under migration and create a file called do_deploy contracts.js, and we can deploy our real coin crowd sale smart contracts there. So now we have our real coin smart contracts running on there. So yeah, so now we have a real coin migration. Now if you go back to the steps in the readme file, you can see that we can run truffle migrate. So truffle compile to compile our smart contracts. And the compilation is done and the artifacts have been written to this folder. There are some deprecation warnings, but we can leave them out for now. So now we can run migrate. And the migration is done, and you can see under the Ganache CLI that the transaction has been recorded and the gas usage has also been recorded on the blockchain. So the next step is to actually interact with the blockchain. So we run Truffle console and we have to check whether the purchaser has any tokens right now. So we look at the purchaser's account, which is that address, and if we check the address of the purchaser, we'll find by running the command for the balance that the purchaser has this token address. Now, in terms of the address of the crowd sale, we want to be able to change the address of the crowd sale to the ownership of the address to the crowd sale. So we'll take the token address and we'll create an instance for the real coin. So we'll say real coin instance and we'll set it to the token address. So now we've set the ownership, and we're going to transfer the ownership to our real coin instance. So let's say real coin instance.transfer ownership crowdsale.address, and now the ownership has been transferred. Now we'll check how many coins the purchaser currently has. So under the real coin instance, we check the balance of the purchaser, and right now it is at 0. And the next step is to buy tokens by the purchaser. So we'll address the real coin crowd sale, and we bought these tokens by running that command. So the next step is to check the balance of the purchaser. So we'll query the real coin instance and check the balance, and right now it has 5 followed by those many zeros coins. Now remember that this has 18 decimal places, so we have to check the balance without the decimals. So in this case, what we'll do is run that command, and that tells us that the balance is 5,000 tokens. So the number of tokens, the number of real tokens with the purchaser is now 5,000, which is what he just bought. And so the token crowd sale is complete. So that's all in this edition of the Bootcamp. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.